only thing we have to
Beer.
is
Beer.
itself.
Beer. So many choices.
Only no function beer well without.
Woohoo! Beer! Hello and welcome to another episode of Beer Busters, where we're going to bring in the news and reviews of some wonderful brews. My name is Dan Baker, as always, joined by my co-host and brewologist,
Steph Hefner.
and our fermenter-tainer,
Wayne Baker.
Now, today we have somebody with us at the table who is not quite a 2-peat, but I'll say a 1.5-peat, because he sat in on an episode before. We have with us
Mr. John Gillespie.
John. Thank you so much for
I was
coming
just going to
back.
say, his name's not Pete. What are you talking about? It took a second.
Yeah.
But
Ha, 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 ha. Well, hey, thank you for coming back out to the show tonight. For some reason, you found it so compelling that you had to come back.
Yeah, we'll go with that.
Okay, cool. Now, I'm very excited because we have a lot in store for tonight, including, what do we, eight beers? Is that what we have tonight?
8 amazing
Yes.
beers.
John was kind enough to bring 7 beers with him, so we didn't really have to. And I brought another bottle of something that I brought
Hey,
back
wait,
from
no.
California.
6 are from
Yeah, Steph
from
broke
John.
out one, too.
I broke out the best one from my cellar, and you brought one.
I tried to give John a lot of credit there. I'm sorry I didn't give you any, Steph. So John was kind enough to bring a couple beers with. Steph and I contributed as well.
I contributed absolutely nothing.
Hey, you're going to drink them, and that's what matters.
That's right.
It's not going to waste.
It's the best contribution. That's right.
Yes. Now, John is here because he is doing a very exciting project involving beer in this sort of regional area. So, John, what would you have to say to anybody in there in the podcastiverse as to what your project is?
So basically, it's a book about craft brewing in Southeast Pennsylvania. I mean, that's really the fundamental idea behind it. I moved up here a little over a year ago now, so I'm not native to Pennsylvania. I'm actually from Virginia. But in coming up here and already being a craft beer fan at the time, the first thing I wanted to do was find the awesome beers in this area. And what I found myself really wanting was just a resource that I could look to that was very uniform, that would tell me everywhere I could go, all the people who are making it, what their deal was, what they like to put into their beers, and a little bit about what I might be getting if I go there. And through looking around, I didn't really find anything like that. And basically, my response was, well, hey, I have these 2 diplomas sitting on the wall that say English and history, so I kind of know how to write, sort of, and I might as well do it myself.
Very cool. And I'm very excited because that is, I'm sure it's going to end up being such a good resource for so many people that are out there.
I hope so.
Yeah.
It's an exciting project. And you lived, before you moved to this area, you lived
In Southwest Virginia. So
Virginia, that's right.
Yeah, Roanoke is the city that I'm actually from. You say Roanoke to people in Southwest Virginia, it'd be kind of like saying Lebanon to people, or I'm sorry, in Southeast Pennsylvania, kind of like saying Lebanon to people
it's in
in
that,
Virginia.
It's in that song.
What
On
is
a Roanoke, met a truck.
Oh,
Really
yeah.
had
Yeah,
a nice
Old Crow
song.
Medicine
Yeah,
Show.
that's it. Yeah, that's why I know Roanoke.
I
Love
don't
that
know
song.
that song.
That's a good song.
It's a fantastic song.
But actually, what I wanted to ask was comparing the craft beer scene where you used to live to this area now.
It's funny because the craft beer scene down there was non-existent when I lived there. And now, as soon as I've left, it has exploded.
Of course.
Literally, my mother actually came to visit me not too long ago, and as mothers tend to do, she clipped things out of the newspaper that she thought I'd find interesting.
Yeah.
One of which, though, was a massive spread on how the craft brewing scene in Roanoke and Southwest Virginia in general has just started, basically. When I was there, there were 2 breweries in Blacksburg and Roanoke combined. Blacksburg's where I went to school at Virginia Tech. There was a brew pub, and then there was one guy literally in the back of a tire shop making pretty decent beers. But that was it, and it was called Roanoke Rail House, actually. A shout out to them because they're awesome, and he let me interview him actually for a research paper I did in school. But, there was nothing. And now there's probably over a dozen, which compared to this area is still pretty scant, but...
Coming up from 2, that's a huge
Coming up from
improvement.
2, that's a huge improvement. And, the southeast of the United States in general is the last frontier kind of for craft beer. It's coming along slowly, but it is coming along. And, Virginia is definitely a part of that.
So should we talk about the beer we're drinking before
Yeah,
I finish it?
I was gonna ask because everybody's sipping on except for me. I wanted to wait, but what do we have?
I couldn't wait. Well,
Yeah.
John, why don't you?
Sure. This is so kind of to preface all the beers we're trying. I took a trip recently to Wisconsin to visit other family who live in Milwaukee, and naturally, being me, the first thing I wanted to do was search out the beers that I had heard of from that area, which mainly meant New Glarus. So this first beer we've got is their Spotted Cow, which is a naturally cloudy farmhouse ale, according to their description. And this beer in Milwaukee, from what I could see, is like prima pills in this area.
Right.
It is the craft beer that is everywhere. This was for sale in the airport at a place that had no other craft beers
Wow.
for sale
Right.
except for Sam Adams. So it's very readily available.
And it is easy drinking. I could see why it would be the one craft beer that would be everywhere.
It's delicious.
It's a solid saison.
It is. The farmhouse ale. Maybe I get mixed up. And Steph, you can probably shed more light on this. When they say farmhouse ale, my first thought goes to having a sour note. But I guess some people use that sort of interchangeably as
Some
a saison.
can, yeah.
Yeah.
A saison or a farmhouse ale can have hints of tartness or sourness, but they can also be very earthy and spicy, and it has a lot to do with the yeast that is chosen to brew the beer. This is delicious. At first, I was getting a little bit of tartness, and the more I drink it, it's super clean though, and
is really-
finishes
Yeah, I
very
was gonna
dry.
say, I can't really say. They say this is cloudy.
Yeah, it's not really.
That is-
No.
Looking at it, not cloudy.
That's like
It's not clear.
it's not
No,
completely
not
clear.
clear.
Yeah,
No.
I wouldn't call it cloudy though. No. I'd call it hazy.
I call it my glass is empty.
I would
That
call
was
it
good.
that was,
splitting hairs.
I call it the bottom of the glass.
Nice.
So we'll be trying a few more beers from New Glarus, but you also brought a bottle from a brewery I had never heard of.
Yeah,
Shall we crack this one open and talk about this one?
Why not?
sounds like a good plan.
The earlier we can drink, the better.
Yeah. We'll get the smaller bottles out of the way.
All right.
The ones without the wax.
Yeah, for anybody wondering, there are two normal-sized bottles and then many more bigger bottles on the table.
Yes.
Much more bigger.
Much more bigger.
More bigger.
So what's the deal with this brewery,
Okay,
John?
so I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly because it looks like it should be pronounced Oso Brewery. I don't know if that's sort of like
That's what I would say.
it's oh so good, or if that has something to do with where they are. I know literally nothing about this. And the story behind it is we were in the grocery store buying beer.
Yeah.
Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
Beer lovers.
How about
and I was looking for the New Glarus, and the only New Glarus, it was a grocery store, so they didn't have the greatest selection. They didn't have the fancy ones that we have coming up, but they did have Spotted Cow. And while I was picking out Spotted Cow, my brother actually was looking through the shelves, and he saw this. And the reason he picked it was that the label says it is judicious. And his explanation was any beer that they self-describe as judicious has got to be interesting enough to try. Again, I don't know much about it, but I know I really loved this beer. It's a porter, darker, 6.7% alcohol, and they say this is an oatmeal porter. It's interesting. I usually hear oatmeal ascribed to stouts. But,
Yeah.
No.
but it's definitely it's a deep kind of chocolatey beer, I think.
It is, and there's something to it. I can't quite put my finger on.
They
Well,
don't
the-
say
the-
anything special on their description.
Yeah.
The bitterness of the roasted malts
And
really
I think
comes through in the
there's,
aroma.
There's like almost, I want to say, a slight tangy roastiness to it in the end. Like the chocolate kind of comes up front, like your standard porter type.
Yeah, I can get the tanginess.
But you do get
Yeah.
it's like a tangy roasty.
well, yeah, almost a slight tartness a little
yeah.
bit. Yeah, it's good.
Which is different, I think, and it's very interesting, and I like it.
Yeah.
It is complex, which I believe is a word they used besides judicious. Are you throwing your phone around stuff?
Sorry.
Yeah,
Good thing she has that OtterBox.
for people who don't have the video version of the podcast.
Yeah.
The
There was a glare that was shot in my direction. What was that for?
hey man, there's room for a camera here. The label has roasty, chewy, robust, judicious, creamy, bold, complex, immense.
Oh, and immense, yes.
Immense. That's also pretty good. And the funny, I don't know. Again, I don't know anything about the brewery, but I can tell you, I don't think they are the biggest, most polished brewery because if you looked at their 6-packs on the shelves, you could literally see the different levels that the bottles were
Oh,
filled.
wow.
really? Oh, wow.
But again, they're making a good beer and it works. So
This is
you
definitely
can't-
They've been around
can't knock
since
'em.
2007, so.
There you go.
They
Well, and I mean,
definitely-
in Wisconsin, you probably wouldn't have heard.
And
from
it said
much.
that it's been voted one of the best porters in the state.
Can't argue.
It's delicious. Super good.
Of all the Wisconsin porters I've had, this is the best.
What does the word judicious mean? I've heard it. I would have figured like judicial.
It's
English major.
it's kind of. I mean, you can hear judicial is in there. It's sort of derived from that, but from what I understand, it's like very discerning.
Okay.
Like you are judicious with your judgments. You make very,
Or very thorough.
very thorough.
complete,
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
kind of what
I
I
think
would-
that's where I
Using
come
or
down.
showing judgment as to action or practical expediency, discreet, prudent, or politic.
discerning.
There
I
you
like
go.
that. There you go.
There you go.
So that word amounts of crystal amutic malts. Gotcha.
Yeah,
Yep.
Cool.
Yeah. Next time you hear that beer is judicious, that's what it means.
There you go. Speaking of interesting words, we may or may not be playing a game involving words a little later.
Oh, all right.
Yeah,
That's a good little
We have
tease
a couple
for it.
games coming
We
up.
do, we
I'm-
do.
This is going to be a fun episode.
Now, are we going to let the cat out of the bag now?
I think we should.
We should. Okay.
So, wait, who brought a cat?
Well, Steph has two.
There was actually literally
Manny
a
was.
cat
There
in
was.
a bag.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
earlier.
right. Steph
We
cat
should have taken a picture
Yeah.
of the cat in
In
the
the
bag.
bag.
Steph's
Yes.
cat Manny was laying inside my duffel bag that holds all of the equipment when I travel to the Beer Busters podcast basement.
And you're like, Manny, get out. Manny,
I lost an
get
adapter
out.
and I thought
Manny,
he was sitting on it, but
get
he
out.
wasn't. I still
Instead
can't
of
find
just
it.
lifting him and moving him.
Yes. All right, so we're going to take the metaphorical cat out of the metaphorical bag. The reason it's going to be such a fun episode, and the reason we have...
As long as it's not in a box. Cats in boxes don't have a good...
All right, Schrodinger.
Yeah, Schrodinger.
That's what I was getting at. Anyway, I'm sorry.
We may or may not be taking the cat out of the metaphorical bag, but
yes.
you'll never know until you open
Until
it.
you open the
Right.
bag.
Yeah.
In fact, it may not even be a cat.
We may have segued a little bit here.
Without further ado...
Without further ado, today is special because John, in all his creativity, had a really good idea that we kind of wanted to run with and see what would happen. We're turning the tables.
We'll see if it was a good idea.
Yeah, we're going to see what happens. We're turning the tables. From here on out, this is the John Gillespie podcast.
Hello, and welcome to the first and only episode of Beer Country Podcast Radio. I'm your host, John Gillespie, joined as always by no one, because I'm all you need. But I do have three fantastic guests with me here tonight in the Beer Country Podcast Radio basement. You know them, you love them, at least I'm assuming you do because this is their podcast you're listening to. It's the Beer Busters.
Hey, all right.
Dan, Steph, and Wayne, thank you guys so much for joining me. I know it was a long and arduous journey.
Yes.
Well, we can't thank you enough for having us.
Yeah, well, I am pretty wisdomous and gracious, so
Are you judicious?
I might be judicious.
Okay.
We'll have to find out later as the day goes on.
All right. So, it's weird not leading us.
I know,
What
Dan's
do we
like,
got, John?
Dan's like, I want to host. I can't.
Well, you know
No,
what?
host.
I think the first thing that we should go into is I think Wayne had a little game set up
Yeah,
for
let's
us.
do the mat. One of the mat.
I think
yes.
that's a
Oh,
good
you
way
wanna
to
do that
start.
now? I
yeah,
thought
well, because we're gonna have to. We have a little more to go
get through, yeah.
before we get into. Well, Steph doesn't have any more.
Yeah, I'm out too.
Well, never mind then. I guess we're going into one of these.
Should we pour one more beer and then we'll go into a game?
Okay.
How's that?
That sounds like a good plan to me.
Am I allowed to hit buttons?
No.
You may hit whatever you
Not
want.
well. You can ask permission first. Only if you refer to me as glorious leader and master John.
Dear leader.
You're in control of the soundboard.
I
man.
have no idea. Wait, hang on.
You hit buttons.
They're labeled.
Give me a fucking beer.
Good choice.
That's exactly the one I was going to go with.
So,
This might be very dangerous for
We're-
you guys.
Oh, this feels really
John, what are we
weird.
tasting next? I'll give you a hint. It's the one with the cherries on the
Oh my goodness. Okay, so we are tasting New Glarus Belgian Red, and this is, from what I have heard, from all intents and purposes, probably the most famous of the New Glarus fruit flavored beers, and it is, from what I know, it is going to explode into your face with a sucker punch of cherry.
Oh my god.
Totally does.
So, I'm going to love this one, apparently.
Steph is desperately trying to get the attention of people.
Oh, I can't tell if Dan is happy or disgusted.
I can't tell if I'm happy or disgusted.
Nice. That's the way it should be.
And, well, I guess I should read the description here. So, New Glarus Belgian Red, which is a Wisconsin cherry ale.
My god.
You hold the marriage of wine and beer.
Oh,
Belgian Red is a
my
tapestry of flavor. This beer is brewed with whole Montmorency cherries, Wisconsin farmed wheat, and Belgian roasted barleys.
Oh, my God.
Lagered in oak tanks and balanced by Hallertau hops. We aged in our brewery 1 full year. Over a pound of Door County cherries, which, if you couldn't guess, is where I don't know if it's where the brewery is, but it's in Wisconsin. In every bottle makes this beer uniquely Wisconsin. So unique, in fact, that we applied for a patent. Expect this beer to be ruby red with a medium body that is highly carbonated, intense with cherry flavor and bouquet. Serve your friends Belgian Red in a brandy snifter or champagne flute and toast life with beer from the land of Wisconsin.
So was their patent granted?
I have no idea.
Why would you? You can apply for anybody can apply for a patent. Getting awarded the patent's the special thing.
This
I
is
recently
amazing.
applied for a copyright.
Hey,
I don't know. It still hasn't come back yet.
Trademark. This beer.
Hashtag trademark.
Hashtag trademark. This beer is friggin' awesome.
Holy
is
mother
amazing.
of crap.
you know,
Yeah, I know, right?
This is like
He
this
finally
is,
drank
Wow.
Do we have our next top shelf? Like seriously,
it. This is like, wow.
it tastes legitimately like cherry juice. I don't really get anything else out of it. Like it's
Really?
Oh, I was going to say that this is maybe one of the most complex beers I've ever tasted.
Oh yeah.
There is a whole range of flavor that
I-
starts from
it-
the
it-
moment you try this beer.
Does sort of sucker punch you with cherry right up front. And then it's got a tartness that comes in.
Oh, man.
It's a little puckery, but then it's like it hurts so good.
come on, baby, make it hurt so
It's
good.
a beautiful color, ruby red, as they say. It's got the fine carbonation.
I told you you were going to regret this.
Oh, that's awesome.
Oh man,
Playing with the soundboard is great.
But, I mean, this is... I don't know. Does anyone else kind of toward the end of the taste almost get like cranberry sauce?
Yeah.
Like
Ooh,
it turns from cherry into cranberry.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any cranberries. There
No.
is cranberries in one of these beers, I think.
Yeah.
Not this one.
But
this
not
one.
this one.
I think that's that tartness coming
Yeah.
in with the fruit flavor.
It's so good.
Moves it towards cranberry. This is, this is just...
It's so good.
Well, and that wheat really, the barley sweetness doesn't get to you almost at all because it's all cherries, and I think that's probably the wheat kind of thinning it out. But yeah, this is amazing.
This is definitely, I think, one of the most interesting tasting beers I've ever had. Like, it's not, like, you can't really compare it to much else. It's,
Yeah.
no,
I-
you really can't.
There's
It's
not much else out
cherry,
there, anything like it.
and it's kind of tart. It still has beer characteristics, but it's really like its own drink.
The only other-
it's really
The only other cherry I think I've ever really had, or at least that I can remember, is cherry wheat, Sam Adams.
Yeah.
But this
That's
is so
nothing like this.
No,
This is
this
like
is completely
fresh,
different.
freshly picked, delicious, juicy,
Yeah.
ripe cherries.
And it is one of those, and I think it's interesting, Dan, when you made that face you made when you first drank it, because when you first take a sip, it is so unique that you do for a second, you're like, do I hate this or do I love
Yeah.
this? For a brief second, and then you swallow it and you're like, I freaking love this.
Yeah.
Yeah, and especially coming from what we had before that, a porter, which is a beer. I mean, that one was a little bit unique, but you know exactly what it is, and it's got darker, deeper flavors. This is so 100% in the other direction. I mean, I'm really glad to have all four of these. All four of the New Glarus beers, of course, are they are fruit beers of one type or another. And I've never really been a big fan of fruit beers, so one of the reasons I was really excited to bring these back is because I've heard so many good things about them. I was hoping they could kind of turn me over to the dark side and show me that fruit beers can be great. And so far, they're doing a damn good job.
Wow. If the other three are even close to as amazing as this one is, we're in for quite a ride.
Oh, yeah.
Every sip is an experience.
Yeah.
I think that deserves a... So I think we said, now that we got a little distracted by the amazingness of the beer, but I think we said pour one more and then we'll
Yeah, let's play
Oh,
a
move
game.
yeah,
into
we're
a
supposed to
little-
do something else.
I think we
do
can we play
something.
the happy fun time music in the background?
Are we?
as soon as Dan shows me where it is.
One of the ones
Oh.
that says...
There you go. There you go. So we're doing this. Okay. So I'm allowed to host for a minute.
You have my permission.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you. Your grace. So, this is, of course, the Beer Country Podcast's cheap knockoff of Happy Fun Time Games. This is obviously a totally different episode. We're just kind of running loose and doing whatever. Steph and I went online today and stole some Mad-libs, or generic fill-in-the-blank word games.
Okay, hang on a second. I don't know if I was supposed to stop that or not.
I always leave it running.
Oh, you just leave it running?
Yeah.
Usually, yeah.
And go.
Thank you, Maestro. So
This.
I apologize.
this first game comes from worldsgreatestpartygames.com or something similar.
Yep.
It's an adult Mad Lib, and it's all about beer, so that's fair enough. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do what you normally do when you play this sort of game. I'm going to go around. You guys are going to give me the word of the type for which I ask. And hopefully it's interesting, and we'll read the story, and we'll have lots of fun, and then maybe later we'll do another one.
Yay.
So we're going to begin to my southwest with Dan.
Even on this special occasion that this is, you can't start to your right or to your across.
Well, you never start to your across, and you always pass it on the left-hand side.
That's a rookie mistake.
obviously. Come on now.
All right, fine.
Jeez.
Fine.
Stick with it. Pay attention. Let's go. Here we go, Dan.
All right, what do we have?
What I need from you is, surprisingly, a type of liquid.
Well, I can't go with the obvious one.
Yeah, don't go with the obvious one. That's no fun.
Orange juice.
Orange juice or awingsu. Orange juice.
Or OJ.
And, all right, John, what I need from you is an adjective.
You know, it shouldn't be this hard to
Come
pick
on,
up
English
a word.
major.
You're on the spot.
What adjectives all of a sudden? I'm blanking on these things.
Judicious?
Judicious is a good one. I like
Right,
judicious.
Judicious. We'll
Wow,
go
you
with
came up with
judicious.
my first word for me. That's
Yeah,
embarrassing.
no problem. Gotta get the ball rolling. I'm just warming up the crowd. Steph, what I need from you, nice and simple, a number.
13.
Third fair. She gets a number. I could do a
No.
number.
13. All right, and we swing back around to Dan, and from you, I need another adjective.
Blue.
Seriously?
Really?
Blue. Moving on to John. I'm not helping you this time. I need a noun.
The Susquehanna River.
Oh my God! I'm going to write this out. I'm putting the Susk period river. The Susquehanna.
SUSQUEHANNA.
I could spell it.
MISSISSIPPI.
It's a lot of letters though.
Spell Google though.
SCHUYL
SCHUYL.
KIL.
KILLING.
It's a sneaky one. That's
Moving on
Spookily?
to Steph. I do not need the name of a river. What I need is another adjective.
Caustic.
Caustic, like lie. Caustic. Very good. Very good. Swinging back to Dan, and we have a bit of a theme here. I need from you, can you guess?
Adjective.
An adjective. Not a color.
Happy.
Happy. All right. Happy. Keeping it simple. Moving on to John, and this is a little more specific. What I need, it is not Pacific. It is not an ocean. What I need from you is a type of food.
Type of food.
A type of food.
Vegan Cheez-Its.
Not if I'm being kind. A Philly cheesesteak.
Ooh, a Philly
Ooh,
cheesesteak.
I
Very
want
good.
one.
Very good.
Could
Yeah,
go
those
for a
animal
Philly
crackers
cheesesteak
might have
right
to
now.
make their way down here soon. All right, moving on to
Remember, chew away from the mic.
Steph. I need from you, yet again, an adjective.
Tenacious.
Tenacious. Tenacious. And Dan,
Yes.
I need from you,
Adjective.
surprisingly, another adjective.
Glassy.
Glassy. Not classy.
But glassy.
But glassy.
With a G.
John, you're getting all the specific ones. What I need from you is a part of the body.
Oh, no. Really?
Femur.
Femur, very good. Femur. All right. Go
I
ahead.
got a femur, and the only prescription is more cowbell.
Swinging over to Steph, and what I need from Steph is a noun.
Disco stick.
Disco stick. Disco stick.
Do I have to do another adjective?
That actually, disco stick. That's probably going to work pretty well. Dan, I need from you an adjective.
Come on. Metallic.
Metallic, very good. All right, metallic. Back to John. Quick and simple. I need a verb.
Hopped.
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 Yeah, I hopped the
like
word.
I hopped.
But not a past tense verb. So we're going to use hop.
Oh, that brings up a moral dilemma. Is it like hopping a beer or I hopped over a fence?
Right. Well, we'll see.
You can figure it out.
The context will come
whichever
from
whichever
the story.
one you need.
Yes.
Stay tuned.
Okay. Moving on to Seth. From you, I need a noun, but not just any noun. I need a noun that is plural, of which there is more than one, commonly ending in S.
Glasses.
So we have glassy and glasses.
Jesus.
The glassy glass.
Oh,
was
wait, we
fast.
had glassy. Let's do growlers.
Growlers. All right.
Which are made of glass.
Growlers. Is that a growler superstore?
Growlers. Sunday. Dan, I need from you the name of a place.
Just kidding, an adjective.
No, seriously, a place.
Mars.
All right, Mars. And back to John. From you, a simple, not a noun, but a verb. Not a verb, but a noun.
Just kidding, adjective.
Getting ahead of myself.
So we're talking person, place, thing here.
Yes.
Got you.
Or, as a teacher of mine once said, a person, a place, a pet, or a thing, because she had to include pet.
That's animals in there.
A reverse flow wart chiller.
Wow, a reverse flow, which
I want to see
assume
how much of this you'll write.
Is hyphenated, wort chiller. And
It's called
finally,
counterflow, isn't it? I even got that wrong.
Yeah. I wasn't going to correct.
We're going to call it a reverse flow wort chiller. Steph, for our final word, I need from you a verb.
Berate.
Berate. Berate. You
Berate.
just
Berate.
enunciating for dramatic effect.
I was.
Okay, that is our final word. So here is the story that we have constructed today. There is no title. So unless the best beer choice, I think that's the title. Okay. When you show up for a rooftop party, the orange juice you choose to drink is very important. After all, the weather is usually judicious. The party lasts for 13 hours, and you don't want to get blue too early. Or blown.
I just blew myself.
So what should you drink? You take a look in the cooler, and the Susquehanna River you come across is a stout, apparently. You usually love to drink such a dark, caustic beer, but it might be a little too happy for this occasion. You don't want to feel like you just ate a loaf of Philly cheesesteak. What about a wheat beer? It seems like the most tenacious choice for a summer party. Well, it kind of makes sense. You love the glassy taste. Shards lacerating your mouth as you drink. But it also gives you a raging femur ache. And the only cure is, in the end, you choose a Disco Stick Light. Your usual go-to. It's metallic, easy to hop, and goes with all the growlers you plan to eat. Only problem is you might have to make more trips to the Mars than usual. Reverse flow wort chiller light makes you berate all night long.
Nice.
The mother FNN.
Yes.
That was fantastic.
That was
Nice.
awesome.
It was beautiful. All right. Well, I'm sort of reaching for where to go next.
Welcome
But
to my world.
I think probably the place to go next is another beer.
I like the way you think.
Let's do the raspberry.
Fantastic. So, New Glarus Raspberry Tart, which is a Wisconsin framboise ale.
Oh, boy.
Treat yourself to a rare delight. The voluminous raspberry bouquet will greet you long before your lips touch your glass. Serve this Wisconsin framboise very cold in a champagne flute, then hold your glass to a light and enjoy the jewel-like sparkle of a very special ale. Oregon proudly shares their harvest of mouth-watering berries, which we ferment spontaneously in large oak vats. Then we employ Wisconsin-farmed wheat and year-old Hallertau hops to round out this extravaganza of flavor.
It sounded like a PBS commercial.
Or I was going to say we could use them for the next ad-lib, mad-lib, whatever.
Yeah.
This podcast is made possible by listeners like you.
Yeah, seriously, send us some money.
You don't have to send me money. I love you anyway.
Beer, maybe.
Just buy his book.
Oh, yeah, send me beer and buy the book. That's
Ooh.
you know what? That's asking for more than just money.
I love the aroma. Nice fresh raspberries.
Yeah, man, they really know how to hit you in the face with some fruit.
Very similar in color to...
Hit you in the face? Is that our hashtag?
It was a drive-by fruiting.
knows how to hit you in the face with meat and 2 veg.
What?
It's a very similar color to the last beer that we tried.
A little more
Little-
pinky red? Pinky
This
red?
is
I was actually going to say a little more browny red.
yeah, it's wow, that is carbonated. Holy carbonation, Batman.
Yeah, it's a framboise. Yeah. Ooh, it's good.
Oh.
It's good.
That's very good.
It's not as powerful as the last one in the flavor, but that carbonation really, that's
It's nice.
a nice tingly sensation.
I mean, tart is the one and only word to really describe it. The raspberry kind of even goes in the background. It's just sort of a mouth pucker.
It pairs nicely with animal crackers.
I was just going to say that.
Oh, but you know what, though? They're organic animal crackers.
I don't want them anymore.
I'll eat them all.
I'm kidding. I want them.
What's wrong with them being organic animal crackers?
Animal crackers should be made from real animals.
They should.
They're vegan. It has the V on the front, too.
Well, therein lies the problem.
I do like the raspberry.
What's Rich's verdict?
Yeah.
He likes it. Very good.
What did you like the cherry or the raspberry better?
This one.
Yeah.
Raspberry.
He's going for the
Rich's
raspberry.
vote is for raspberry.
It's less intense,
He's jumping on the raspberry train.
but it is very
Raspberry
good.
was good.
And I think these are the types of beers that would be, I think, kind of maybe difficult to pair with food because they would really fight with much of anything. But if you
Dessert.
found a good pair...
I was going to say dessert.
Desserts, yeah, I think.
Chocolate mousse.
I can
Yeah.
see
Yeah.
myself
Yeah.
drinking this while eating a vat of whipped
Yeah.
cream.
There you go.
Yeah, or a really dense piece of chocolate cake or something like that. It would have to go.
Absolutely.
I mean, it just the carbonation is going to lift anything really heavy off your palate.
Why don't we just
Raspberry's
call
awesome.
Greg and ask him what he would do?
Yeah, this would actually
Get him on the phone line.
actually both of these beers so far, and I imagine perhaps some of the more of the ones that we're going to try tonight would be good chocolate pairings for Mr. Orth.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
But
well,
I agree with John. I want like chocolate cake or chocolate
I
mousse,
want
not just a
something
piece
dense,
of chocolate.
Something
I want something
thick and yeah.
substantial.
well, it seems like so far we got 2 home runs
Absolutely.
out of those 2.
You're welcome
So-
back anytime.
Only when you've recently been on.
We'll
trip.
come back to your show anytime.
Yeah, really. What is this show you speak of? That isn't mine. But since we've done that, and we're holding off on the interview section a little bit longer,
Oh, boy.
probably time to hear this music again.
You know, there are 2 other ones on there. Well, now they're both going to play together. There you go.
I'm digging that for me. All right.
Oh, do I get to play a game?
Yeah, Wade actually gets to play a
This
game.
only happened to you once.
Once before.
So I was saying before we actually started the show, and I'll say it again for the listening audience because it describes how awesome I am. Not only did I bring beers that Steph had never tried before,
Which is rare.
but I brought a
True.
game that Wayne actually gets to play. So
Yay.
let's get into it right here. So this is just a quick intro to my show and something to get us rolling. I've prepared a little game for you guys, though I don't have quite the aptitude for alliteration and creative mind teasers as Wayne. I did dig deep into my own knowledge of all things beer to come up with a couple of questions that you may or may not know the answers to. 3 questions, 1 point each if you get it right. Possibility of bonus points if I feel like it. The theme of these questions is one near and dear to my own heart because it's how I got into craft beer in the first place. It is the history of the craft beer revolution in the United States. Ooh. It's all very simple, so we can go ahead and get started. And we are going to start, as always, here on the Beer Country Podcast Radio.
Don't do it.
To my right with
God
Dan.
damn it!
Nice. I love it.
So, Dan,
God damn it.
in 1977, a new brewery opened on the West Coast in Sonoma, California. This event is significant because it was the first new brewery to open in the United States in a long time, and history would come to regard it as the first true micro brewery. Can you name the founder of that brewery? Is it A, Jim Cook, B, Ken Grossman, C, Jack McAuliffe, or D, Fritz Maytag?
I said it was West Coast.
West Coast.
Jim Cook's out.
You're trying to get me to give something away. It will not work.
See, the only founder of anything in 1977 I know is George Lucas, because that's when A New Hope came out.
There's no beer in Star Wars.
He's not an option. Although you can try. I don't think you might get it right.
Yeah.
This is not the answer you're looking for.
This is not the answer you're looking for.
Because I forget the other names, I'm just going to go with C.
C. Jack McAuliffe. All right.
The answer is D. Fritz Maytag.
D. Fritz Maytag.
I agree.
for
Fritz
Wayne.
Maytag.
Can I-
Anchor Brewing.
Can I change my answer?
No, you cannot, because you are the only one who got it right.
Oh, he bought it.
Shocker.
Oh.
Fritz Maytag, in fact, bought the Anchor Brewery in San Francisco, California in 1965 and turned it around, made it a success, and they were the first,
he didn't found
probably
it,
the
true.
first craft brewery, but not the first microbrewery. That was, in fact, Jack McAuliffe. Full name John Jack McAuliffe was his nickname.
Oops.
He was
I was just trying to throw you off.
he
Steph.
was an American sailor who
It
came back to the
works.
United States and wanted to make good beer, and he had really good engineering skills and pretty much made his brewery from scratch, and it failed within a couple of years. But Ken Grossman, who is the other option, who founded Sierra Nevada,
Who I
did-
met at beer camp. Did you meet him at beer
I
camp?
did meet him, and he
Amazing
is
guy.
awesome. And his son, I think, is very involved in the
Yeah,
brewery
his son
now.
was there too.
And they are fantastic, but he actually got inspired by Jack McAuliffe, which is why it's considered like the foundational microbrewery. So Dan is in the lead with
That's-
1 point.
That won't last.
You tricksy bastard.
Next up is Wayne. Wayne, in what year did Sam Calagione found Delaware's first brew pub, Dogfish Head
shit.
Brewings and Eats? Is it A, 1989, B, 1993, C, 1995, or D, 1997?
Are you saying the brew pub, not the brewery?
The brew pub, which
the brew pub was the original brewery.
Was
which
okay.
was
Okay.
that's what he started.
Okay, gotcha.
I'll tell you
Okay.
that much.
Okay, I didn't know that. What was it? It was 89.
89, 93, 95, and 97.
I'm gonna go with 93.
93. All right, Wayne says 93.
Crap.
On to can I combine your names?
I've
Call
done
you
it
Dane
before
for that?
too.
On to Steph. 89, 93, 95, or 97.
Crap. I'm going to say 97.
All right, Steph says 97. And finally, Dan.
95.
Dan says 95. And in a shocker, Dan is once again the only one who's right. Wow.
We
quit.
suck.
Yes. 1995, Sam Calagione founded Dogfish Head Brewings and Eats. It was only a brew pub for, I believe, the first 3 or 4 years before he actually opened the first brewery in Lewis, Delaware, which would then move on to Milton. And finally, last question. Steph, although I guess at this point, Dan's kind of won the game. Since
We
he
could
has
get
2
bonus points.
2 points to 0. That's true. There is a possibility of bonus points, so
Bonus
we'll
points.
see. We'll see what happens
Bonus
here.
point.
So, Steph, what was the name of the first brew pub to open in the United States after Prohibition ended? Was it A, Mendocino Brewing, B, Yakima Brewing and Malting Company, C, the Sierra Nevada Pub and Brewery, or D, Bull and Bones Brewhouse and Grill?
What I thought it was is not on the list. Say them again. Crap.
Mendocino Brewing, Yakima Brewing and Malting Company, the Sierra Nevada Pub and Brewery, or Bull and Bones Brewhouse and Grill?
I'll go with A.
Steph says A, Mendocino
I think
Brewing.
you remember what A was. You just picked a letter.
I know.
Hey, it works for me, the first question.
Yeah, and the second one apparently.
No, the second one I
you
sort of
actually
knew.
thought I know.
Now it's on to Dan. We'll see if he can keep the magic going. Was it Mendocino Brewing, Yakima Brewing and Malting Company, the Sierra Nevada Pub and Brewery, or Bull and Bones Brewhouse and Grill?
I'm going to go with Bull and Bones.
Bull and Bones. And on to Wayne.
I am reasonably confident that it's Yakima.
All right. Wayne is the only one who gets it right
Hey,
on this particular one.
I almost said Yakima.
Yes, Yakima Brewing and Malting Company, founded by, I forget his name now, but he became pretty famous as founding the first brewery.
Peter F. Yakima.
As a matter of fact, Bull and Bones Brewhouse and Grill is one of the only 2 breweries that was active in Southwest Virginia before I left.
All right.
and they were awesome.
Do I get bonus points for nostalgia?
No.
No.
So, the final tally before we consider possible bonus points.
Ooh, still bonus
Is-
points in the offing.
Dan with 2 points, Wayne with 1, and Steph bringing up the tail with 0 points. And unfortunately,
Damn you, Fritz Maytag.
I'm not going to lie, I really thought these questions would be more geared towards Steph knowing the answers.
The thing is, I know stuff and then I just don't remember.
So I came up with a bonus question that's going to be a little more geared toward Wayne and Dan.
Oh, crap.
But I'm going to ask it anyway just for the fun of it. So, 3 points,
Ooh.
making you the victor if you can say what the name of Data's cat on Star Trek The Next Generation
Spot.
was.
I got
And
there first.
They both got it, so they both get 3 points.
And more bonus points that the cat, Data's cat spot is alternately referred to as both male and female in different episodes.
Well, it has babies on the one episode, so I don't know how it could be male, but now I'm just proving my geekery, so that's all right.
It switches. Some episodes they say it's a male.
Yeah. Doesn't he call it?
They just for some reason like some episodes are like it's a
After
male.
he got the
and
emotion chip, he was like, Spot, I missed you, boy.
yeah.
Yeah.
And when he finds it in the wreckage of the Enterprise,
Yeah. That's when he got
that's
the,
what-
he started
the
crying.
emotion chip.
Dude,
Yeah.
Yeah.
seriously.
Hey, you got 3 nerds at the table now.
That was at the end of the movie. So, moving on.
Yes, it was.
So, I guess we should probably crack another beer at this point.
Yay!
No, you did
I don't know how to turn it off.
The button up top that says stop.
Oh, stop makes it stop. Gotcha.
Or if you want to be all artsy, you could fade.
I see the fade button.
yeah.
I could probably make that work. So, wait, was that the serendip?
The rhubarb.
Oh, that's the rhubarb. So,
okay.
Rhubarb.
up next, we have New Glarus Strawberry Rhubarb, a Wisconsin wild fruit ale. Teased from the loam by the kiss of the sun, which is just a great sentence to start anything with.
I like that sentence.
Mom's strawberry rhubarb delights are the happy memories of childhood. Diploma master brewer Dan employed juicy sweet strawberries to tame the barbaric wild tart fermentation of rhubarb.
Yes, I did.
Escaped from the far corners of neighboring yards, local rhubarb was incorporated into the wild sour fermentation to create this drinkable dream. Bright sour and effervescent.
For some reason, the aroma reminds me of playing Nintendo as a child. I have no idea why.
Nope, I don't.
No idea why.
Interesting.
I think it's because it reminds you of fruit roll-ups.
Ooh.
That could be.
Oh, it does
That's the
smell like
first
fruit
thing that I
roll-ups.
kind of...
Oh, that taste. Oh, wow.
Fruity Pebbles.
Nice.
Even upside down, I knew where it was.
Nice.
That one's dialed in.
Yeah.
I haven't even tasted
Or like
it yet. 'cause
bubble
I'm still
yum
working on it.
gum. Bubble
Yes. Oh, wow.
What about zebra stripes? Remember that gum?
That gum was terrible.
I like.
I have to say, this
Ooh.
also pairs
Ooh.
very well
Ooh.
with Trader Joe's organic animal crackers.
Trader
This
Joe's
is
checks me table
good.
to Beer Busters
I haven't
podcast.
even tasted it. I have to...
Oh my god.
I need
It's
to
really
order.
good.
I think this might even be my favorite so far.
This is delicious.
You're liking this better than the
I know. Did you think that was
The
good?
cherry-
Belgian Red? I didn't think so. I didn't think I...
The cherry was definitely the most impactful, but I might.
Oh my
This
gosh.
might be the best. It's
that you know what?
sweet
That
and-
reminds me of something else, but I can't put my finger on it. I feel like it was some kind of candy that
Yeah.
you ate. Oh, the little strawberry, the little wrapped up strawberries that had the strawberry wrapper.
Yes.
The ones with the,
Yes.
the gooey center, and you could break into
Yes.
that.
Yes.
Didn't Grandma
That's
always have those at
exactly
her
what
house?
it tasted like.
Yeah.
That's
our-
why
our
it reminds you
grandmother
of Nintendo because we
That
used to
could
play
be.
there.
said- Yeah. Well,
Nintendo, that is.
There you go. Taste memories being activated.
I know, right? Right.
They say they're the most powerful kind.
I normally don't like rhubarb, but this is good.
Well, and see, we were talking. I mean, me and Wayne were talking before the show even about what rhubarb would really bring to the plate, and I think rhubarb is a more bitter kind of flavor. Unless I'm
Yeah,
wrong,
I don't
bitter.
know.
It's definitely not sweet. I don't think so. Anyway,
No, it's a tart.
Yeah.
One of my old jobs, somebody grew his own rhubarb and brought in rhubarb pie the one day, and it was extremely tart. And Lord knows, I love me some pie, but I couldn't finish it.
All right. Well, now that we are knee deep into yet another beer, I think the time has come
Oh. Uh-oh.
to get to the main event
Oh.
and actually grill you guys
Oh, boy.
on exactly what you are and who you think you are and what do you think
Who do you
you're
think
doing.
you are?
I don't know who I am,
That's going to make this way more interesting.
and I still don't know what I want to be when I grow up.
Awesome. Okay, so on to the question. So, for those who don't know, and you should know by now because we mentioned it a couple times, but I'm writing a book. So basically, my goal is to meet and interview every single, not necessarily brewer, but people who are working with the companies, the microbreweries here in Southeast Pennsylvania. And my goal is to interview them to learn more about their company. But I'm not just focusing on breweries themselves. There are a couple of other areas which I'm willing to dive into, and one of which is, of course, the beer media, which is bringing you news about those breweries, which is why I'm here today to interview Dan, Wayne, and Steph, who are the most awesome Southeast Pennsylvania craft brew podcast ever.
All right, I'll take it.
And I have to learn a little bit more about them so that you guys can read about them in the future. So, guys, the first question I had to ask you, what got the idea of doing a beer podcast in your head in the first place?
If you guys don't mind, I'll take that one. I am...
Please.
Yeah, thank you. I am aspiring to be a radio personality on the air. I work in radio. I have worked in radio for years. And I was at the point where I kind of felt like that career was going nowhere, so I figured, why not take fate into my own hands? The internet is there. At that point, I had, I think, 2 microphones and a really crappy interface. Nothing like this beautiful red piece of equipment in front of us. But I had 2 microphones, a little bit of know-how, and a lot of passion about beer. And I was starting to learn a lot more about it. And at one point, I forget exactly when the idea came up, but I remember I was talking to Steph about beer and her homebrew stuff, and it occurred to me, why don't we do a craft beer podcast? I like drinking it. You know a lot about it. And that way, too, we get to kind of promote each other. I get to show that I can host something. Steph gets to promote her homebrew. And then Wayne came in a little after the fact. We had our first episode, it was just Steph and myself. The second episode, Wayne was a guest. And then because that episode went so well, and Wayne is also our webmaster, graphic designer, and a lot of things, we basically begged him to be the third beer buster, more or less.
Didn't take much.
It didn't take much.
Gave me free beer and said you'd put me on the internet. Like, I'm good.
Yeah. So at that point, we had each of us cross-promoting the other. Radio, beer, internet stuff. And it just... and, you know...
And general tomfoolery.
Yes. A year and a half later, it's become something that we never really thought it would become. I mean, we hoped it would, and we still hope for more, but at the same time, at least I'm very happy with where we are right now. If I never make a penny off of this, Lord knows I've gotten enough free beer.
That's really true, yeah.
And we've met some amazing people.
Yeah, I've met people I never would have met because, yourself included, I never would have met you had it not been for this.
That's probably my favorite part.
Which would have been a real shame.
Yeah. I love all of the beers that we've gotten to try. I mean, they're amazing, and I love touring breweries and going behind the scenes and seeing the different systems and hearing about the different processes that brewers use. But meeting the people has been the most amazing part of this journey. Meeting all of the brewers that have welcomed us into their brew houses, the owners that have given us insight into their struggle and their travels, and the reps that are out every night selling the beer, and the homebrewers that have been on the show. I mean, my local homebrew club, the Berks County Homebrew Club, they've been amazing. I mean, a good handful of them have been on the show. Some of them are looking forward to be on the show again, and it's awesome that they would kind of go out there for us, especially in the beginning, like Mike Coons being one of our first outside guests.
He was the first guest.
He was the first guest. You know, I mean, we'd been, 5-6 episodes in by then. And, you know, I really appreciate the guys taking, and girl, because Veronica's on too, taking the time to, just being a home brewer, you're at home, doing your thing. You don't expect to talk about it and be on the internet about it. But it's sort of given the Berks Homebrew a stand too, and people know about our homebrew club too, and it's just the community of people.
And one of these days, one of the members will win Philly Beer Geek.
Anyway.
Besting the aliens.
Well, I was going to say too, we had some people from Aliens in here also.
Yes.
I mean, we had Natalie, and then what was her name?
Oh boy,
from Naked.
Oh, Jess.
Jess,
Yeah,
who was the Beer Geek from this year.
Who you may or may not have heard that episode already by the time you hear this. I don't think you will. I think that'll come after this.
Is it?
Yeah, we're getting to the point where we're so like far ahead and crazy that we don't know when episodes are coming out.
Yeah, you'll figure it out.
And that's what's great. Who would have
That's
thought?
showbiz.
We are currently booked. Now we are recording this the beginning of September right now, and we are booked through the end of November for episodes.
Yeah.
With guests going to breweries and having brewers come on site. And like, I remember at the beginning, like, oh my God, I need to get a guest. We need to record. And when we first decided we're going to release bi-weekly, it was so stressful. And now it's so easy. And it's the coolest thing.
I mean, you get the hiccups every now and then where somebody has to cancel for one reason or
something
another,
comes
or one of us has something happen. We need to reschedule and record on the fly. But overall, I mean, every episode we recorded is something that I love the fact that we were able to do, whether it was something that was planned forever or was brought up in an hour. Mm-hmm. It's been amazing so far. All the people we've met, all the things we've done, and I like that we're able to do something family related too.
Yeah, we get to spend a lot of because we
so
first
cute.
whatever. We I guess it was almost a year after our grandmother passed away when we started doing this, and she. I mean, the three of us were very close, and my brother, I guess the four of us, the grandchildren, we were very close. And one of the biggest places we would always spend time was at our grandmother's house, playing Atari and Nintendo, eating Turkey Hill ice cream.
I was going to say making music videos and movies.
Making music videos and videos, which I still have the VHSs, which I'm sure one day they'll be on the interwebs. But
on MySpace.
And you know, and as we get older and we all graduate high school and we go off to college and we get jobs and, you know, all of these things get in the way and, you know, you become disconnected. And I love that this has brought the three of us back together. And, you know, I'm very close with my brother, but he lives on the other side of the country, so I don't get to see him very often. And I kind of feel like Dan and Wayne, they're my cousins, but they're also kind of like my replacement brothers. While I don't get to see Brian that often, you know, we get along, we love each other, we bicker sometimes, just like brothers and sisters do. And now, you know, now Dan has Noelle, and like I feel like I kind of have a sister-in-law, you know, and it's nice to have the
Wayne
family
is still
around.
Single.
Not for long. There's an amazing woman out there for you because you're a great guy. But yeah, that's been great, having the time that the three of us can spend together, just like we did when we were kids. And, you know, now we have microphones and a laptop instead of a VHS camera and a radio. And fly tape hanging from the ceiling in the basement.
Oh, my God. Caught in my hair. Yeah, I remember that.
Headbanging. Wayne catching his long hair in it.
In short, Dan worked in radio instead of brewed beer. And they decided that it would be cool to combine those two things.
That is very succinct. Thank you, Wayne. No, that was a fantastic answer all around. And just to piggyback on something you guys just said, I do want to say I know some of the at least some of the brewers who I've spoken to definitely keep up with you guys and listen to your show. So I want to say on behalf of all of us, if they do listen to this particular episode, thank you to them for coming on here, for speaking to me, to speaking to every member of the beer media who's just a crazy beer geek trying to talk about this awesome thing we love, because they are very, very busy people.
Oh, yeah.
It takes a lot for them to take time out of their lives and their work days to just really talk to people who, you know, maybe they get some return in terms of good PR, but for the most part, they're just sort of chatting with someone who loves the craft. So,
and that's I've said it before, and I'll say it again. There's a different.
Man, I love being a turtle.
Yeah, right. There is a different level of camaraderie you'll find in the craft beer community than anywhere else. Mm-hmm. You have music nerds, you have comic book nerds, you have sports fans. They all have their own little sectors, but in the craft beer world, everyone has common ground. Yeah. And that's the beautiful thing about it.
And I love promoting these breweries.
Oh my God!
There has not been anyone on the show that has not been just awesome. And I love when I'm not even on the show or, you know, writing an article or on social media. If I'm just out in the public and I'm talking to people, I'm constantly talking about the brewers that I've met and the places we visit. I'm always wearing their T-shirts, like the Flash Gordon T-shirt that Ryan DeLutis gave me. I wear that all the time. I just got my Conshohocken Brewing shirt when we were there. I'm wearing that all the time. I'm constantly wearing a brewery T-shirt. I'm constantly talking these brewers up. And you like this beer? You should go there. They make this great beer. And I love it. And I want people to experience these breweries and the great things that are going on in Eastern PA.
How often are you wearing How often are you wearing a Beer Busters T-shirt?
Do we need a conch shell?
I I wear it pretty often, but
Okay.
yeah.
Well, now that's gonna be
Self-promotion is a little hard for me.
Yeah, no, it's
I
understandable.
wear it when we go to events just so people are like, oh, yeah, those guys are the beer busters.
Yeah,
But
I feel weird wearing the hoodie, but yeah, especially if it's in the middle
it's
of
awesome,
summer.
though. They are great shirts that
Yeah.
Wayne designed. We're
Yeah.
very lucky.
But I agree with what you were saying about, trying to promote all the brew. There's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears that goes into the
yeah.
beer. Not literally, but it's
Well, some
there-
of them.
Well, sometimes literally. As long as it's pre-boil, it's okay.
or beer yeast. But
Many yeast died to bring you these beers.
yes. But it's so much hard work, and they're so proud of it. And you said it yourself too, Steph, when you were at NHC, I think, and your beer was getting passed around or served. As a home brewer, that's apparently, you said yourself, that's one of the biggest things you can have.
There's
One of the greatest
nothing like
compliments.
seeing someone drink your beer and just have a positive response to it.
Yeah.
It's the best feeling in the world
Which is
because you
awesome.
know the time and the work and the money that went into making that product. And for me, it's only like 5 or 10 gallons, but I can't even imagine these breweries making 8 barrels, 10 barrels, 15 barrels, and 40 and plus barrels, and all that blood, sweat, and tears, as you said, and then just to see somebody enjoy it. It's a great feeling.
Occasionally kittens.
Okay. Or smoked goat brains.
I was going to say
Maybe
that
some
one.
smoked goat brains every once in a while. You got to throw some in.
Yeah.
So I think one more question here real quick, because this is going to be a pretty quick answer, and then either we can open another beer or
play more
break or
Mad-libs.
something like that.
We could also, at that point, pause so that I can run to the bathroom.
That would be good.
Somebody broke
So,
the seal.
last question here. Real quick one. How many more words does Dan now know to describe beer beyond smooth?
Three.
Are we talking in the double digits?
I think so.
No.
No.
It's still his favorite. But I think we said it best on the show before that there's no right or wrong answer. Whatever whatever memory or word or thought comes to your mind, that is your experience when you're drinking the beer. What I think the beer tastes like or what I experience is going to be completely different than anyone else, and it's okay. There's no right or wrong answer when you're tasting beer.
I have to say, I've noticed that Dan's growth in describing beers is something that I've actually sort of tried to mimic, is where you have a tendency to describe beers not in words like floral or citrusy or banana or comparing it to fruits and things. You almost kind of like tell a story sometimes, or you say this would be good if I was doing this, or this would be good. And I've kind of I know you're looking at me like, what are you talking about?
Is he complimenting me?
No, it's I thought that was me struggling a little bit.
No,
and I'm glad
no,
to
I
know that
love
somebody
That is
connects with it.
something, yeah, and that's something like, because I have tried to continue to grow my vocabulary and words to use, and there are certain words you want to use because you can communicate, like, oh, okay, we're speaking the
Common
same
words.
You
language.
can at least
Yeah.
pinpoint hop flavors. I can't do that.
Yeah, and things like that. And
Simcoe.
Simcoe. But I have really liked that, and I like that approach of going beyond the regular, sort of beer geek words, or occasionally veering into beer snob territory sometimes, and just saying like, this is what this is making me think of, and not necessarily flavor wise, just in general. And I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and as someone who's read a lot of different books where you have people like, and by the way, I love him, but Garrett Oliver, whose descriptions of beer sometimes go something like,
Oh my
this
God,
is
he's
like
amazing.
an explosion onto a Belgian farmhouse while you're sitting next to the rivers in Vienna and a French girl is French kissing you or something.
Or this,
Yeah.
this is like throwing Ewoks into a lake of farts on Titan.
No one can
Sometimes-
describe beers like
the
Garrett Oliver.
best way to describe a beer is in the way that's going to most effectively communicate what it's doing for you to your audience. So I've tried to learn more about describing beers with fancier language, but that really is what you come down to. It's like, you can use all the fancy terminology, and sometimes those help, but if you can say, this beer reminds me of a fruit roll-up when I was playing Atari
Nintendo.
as a kid, then that's, and anyone who's had that
More
is
often
gonna-
than not Nintendo, but Atari's
I don't know. We played a lot of Atari.
Oh
Galaga,
yeah, I was talking to somebody about that the other day. Grandma always
best
had that
game
Atari.
ever.
Hashtag nerd tangent.
So, what we are drinking now, since we took a little break and poured beer in the interim, as we always do, because beer's beer, is the Serendipity. This is Serendipity, which is okay, they have a Wisconsin wild fruit ale, and this is a fruited sour ale. I don't know if fruited is actually a word. I'm gonna call BS on that.
I'm skeptical.
Severe drought. We shared the farmer's horror as Wisconsin's cherry crop failed. Dan bought what cherries he could, the apple crop fared better. Then joy! A grand Wisconsin cranberry harvest. What will Dan brew with apples, cranberries, and cherries? Oh my! You hold the happy accident of Wisconsin's favorite fruit aged in oak with an almost magical wild fermentation. Serendipity is a wondrous celebration that sparkles your senses and dances across your palate. A kaleidoscope of flavor discovered by accident in a sour ale. Cheers to the unexpected.
Who writes this crap?
It is a kaleidoscope.
It's good.
Yeah, it's got
It's very good.
That's what I would write. Serendipity. It's good.
It's good.
Period.
It's good. It's got a dark fruit at the end,
Yeah.
which is very unexpected.
It's probably from the cranberries.
Definitely get apple, which is weird because don't most of the time when they actually brew with apples, don't they actually not use real apples?
I wouldn't think
I've
so.
heard.
I think
I've heard that before.
I think you may have heard that on a podcast called Beer Busters.
That's possible.
Well,
No, I
there's-
think we did talk to
there's
somebody about
some-
brewing with apples and the.
And then brewing with like an apple
Thing-
flavoring.
Apple extracts, yeah.
Yeah, well, that was
I think the idea is that it
okay,
takes
yeah. I remember who that
so
is, but I
much
won't say
apple to get apple flavor
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
it's just not, you know,
I mean, if anything, they'll do the ceremonial. Oh, here's an apple.
right. And then I think because a lot of apple flavor comes from the skin, and so it was just really difficult.
What apples are you eating?
The ones that have
You
skin.
don't eat the skin?
I eat the skin, but the flavor's on the inside.
I have no idea where the flavor
The
in an apple
flavor's
comes
on the
from.
inside.
Think about it, though. You take your first bite and the skin's gone, but you keep going back and there's more flavor as you
No,
keep
but I
going.
think the distinctive flavors that distinguish different varieties of apples are found mostly in the skin.
I think this beer tastes like apples.
It has a little bit of an apple flavor to it. Yes.
Thank you for bringing us back to beer.
You're welcome. So, bringing us all the way back to the questions that I was asking you guys for your delightful existence in the book called, which, by the way, I don't think I've mentioned the name. The name of the book, this may need to get edited more toward the beginning of the podcast.
Yeah.
So, the book's name, Dan, is Beer Country, A Beer Geek's Guide to Southeast Pennsylvania. Sound clip. And,
There we go.
okay. So, back to the question. So,
Okay.
Steph, this question is specifically to you.
Oh, God.
So, what got you into beer in the first place?
I don't think I've ever asked you that myself.
See, I bring
Kind of a
beers you haven't
friggin'
tried.
host, are you?
I let Wayne play games,
should be
and
one.
I'm asking good questions. I'm awesome.
See, what's funny is, obviously, I'm a member of the AHA.
What's funny is I don't remember.
Well, I kind of don't. I mean, I read the AHA's journal that comes out monthly, Zymergy, and every month there's somebody in there that writes about their story of what got them into craft beer. And I read these really interesting stories of these people that talk about this bar and this one beer that they had, and I honestly don't know that I have that one moment in time. I mean, when I first turned 21, I was drinking margaritas and I was drinking, like spirits and wine. I really didn't like beer. And then I started drinking Corona and I got into Sam Adams. I think probably the Boston beer scene is probably what really got me into beer. Sam Adams really hooked me. And then Rich and I we go up to Boston constantly, and we started going to Harpoon. And I remember having Harpoon's UFO, which is their unfiltered option, the Hefeweizen. They have a raspberry Hefeweizen and the regular UFO. And I really loved this beer. And this was back when Harpoon was still in their small little spot. It was free to get in. You just went up. They didn't even do a tour. It was like the gift shop and a bar, and you just sat and got free samples. Now you have to go and wait in line, and it wraps around the building just to get inside, which is amazing, but also frustrating. But, and then we started going to like the Boston Beer Works. We would go, there's one at Fenway and one outside of TD Garden. So before Sox and Bruins games, we would go to the Beer Works, and they had like their Bunker Hill Blueberry Ale and their watermelon ale in the summertime. And so it's kind of like the craft beers that were fruity, as cliche as it is. And I hate now that people are like, I make this fruit beer to get women into craft beer. Well, I kind of think that maybe fruit beers are what got me into craft beer.
That and David Walker.
And well, David Walker came later, but so and then Harpoon IPA was probably the first really hoppy beer that I ever had, and I really enjoyed it, and it started to get me into more complex beers. And then magically I was introduced to Dogfish Head, and for a period of time, which I think some beer geeks maybe won't admit it, but I think we've all gone through the Dogfish Head obsession where it was my passion to go out and have every single Dogfish beer that was ever created.
Still going through it?
I know, it's cool. And I would stalk their website and see what the the special releases at the brew pub would be the exclusives, and I would tell Rich, oh my God, we have to go down this weekend because they're going to have this beer and I have to have it. And I went through that obsession, and then I started brewing my own beer. A few friends of mine were saying, oh, you like craft beer and I homebrew and you should really try it. And Rich bought me a kit through Brooklyn Brew Shop, and it was just a little 1-gallon kit, and it was very simple. It was all grain from the start, and of course it was their jalapeno saison, and I was like, holy crap, I can make really spicy beers at home. And then it was kind of like a light bulb went on. And then, I know people probably laugh at me, but 90% of the beers I brew, yes, I put peppers in them, but it's because I can, and that's what I want to drink. And then now that my brother lives in New Mexico, and every brewery in New Mexico has a chili beer, and you know they're so spicy, and you sit there and your eyes are watering, your nose is running, and you're like, this is amazing, and you're eating like this big vegan burrito with lots of green chilies on it, you're sweating, and I loved it, and I'm like, I just want to keep brewing beers like this, and then brewing the styles and learning the different styles, and now that I do the podcast and just experiencing the brewer's perspective and going through the American Brewers Guild and studying the process and the chemistry behind it. And it's something that kind of started as a little bit of obsession, and now it's turned into this big obsession, but it's something I'm really passionate about, whether I'm talking about it or I'm brewing or I'm visiting somewhere or I'm writing about it. And it's just a part of my life that in the beginning was, people would say to me, you're a girl, you're not supposed to drink beer. And now people come to me like, you're a girl that brews beer, let's talk. And I love that. It's just a part of me that I'm really proud of and excited about. And I look forward to trying more beers and learning more about beers and talking more about beer and writing more about beer. Would you like to summarize my answer?
I was trying to think of a short answer, but you're good.
Boston beer scene.
So Steph started drinking beer.
Probably going to Red Sox games. There you go.
There you go.
That's as good that's as good an answer as
I
any.
think Boston is probably what got me into beer.
Yeah.
Or it could have been.
Maybe.
Good use of the soundboard.
Thank you.
You're getting good at this.
And on to our next question. This one is specifically for Wayne.
Question.
Yes. So, Wayne.
B.
That is incorrect. Again. You know what? Can you say what you were kind of going for with all the graphic arts that you were, you created for the podcast? What maybe was the theme you were looking for? I mean, obviously, it's beer.
There, yeah.
But, maybe feel free to get a little art geeky because that's fun to me.
Sure. Sure. I know when before I became an actual beer buster, Dan and Steph had contacted me to do some graphic design work for them, podcast, album cover, whatever the heck they call it, and website and all that kind of stuff. The original idea you had of the Ghostbusters with the thing shooting the beer, and,
proton pack of beer shooting,
and
a giant bottle of light beer,
Bud Light or whatever.
It was nondescript light beer,
nondescript whatever. And hashtag tangent. I remember saying that. Do you really want to go with the name Beer Busters because Ghostbusters and Mythbusters are very much like breaking the things that they're busting, but you're not like against beer. And he was like, I like the Ghostbusters thing. And it's funny now because now it just seems normal and natural to say Beer Busters because we've been doing it for so long. But as
that
far
wasn't our original name, though.
No, the original one that we had was taken by somebody else.
Yeah.
A blog that hasn't been updated since
I would
2010.
not listen to a podcast called Taken by Somebody Else because you would have no idea that it was about beer.
That's true. It's all about photography, pictures that were taken by somebody else.
Oh, yes. Very good, very good. Anyway.
I don't have it on there, sorry.
Ah, damn.
I know, we really need to get a rim shot. That's what she said.
Come on!
I can answer a question seriously. I swear to God, I can do it. I do remember when we were specifically designing the logo, like our little beer mug thing, emailing Dan and Steph and going through the, what sort of ideas do you want to convey? And I was like, it should be something simple, something bold, something that stands out. And I had originally thought about something with like combining a microphone with a beer, and I kind of did do a design of beer bottles and a microphone and silhouette that we don't use very often, but it does appear on some of our things, and it is a cool design. But ultimately, the idea was bold and simple and succinct. So it stands out. It's easily recognizable. It's obviously beer, and it's something also that I think a big thing when it comes to like branding in general and logo design is that it has to be flexible enough that everything you do can kind of somehow relate to it and kind of tie into it. And so I think like our actual like little avatar logo has it's what stands out is the bright orange color of the beer, and I've used a lot of orange accents in different things that we do, and it's interesting because in that logo, it's actually bright orange in the beer mug against like a really dark blue, almost black,
which I thought was
which
black.
Some people
forever.
do confuse for black, but if you look really closely, it's if you take a color picker on your computer, you'll find out it's actually a dark shade of blue. But with the website update, a lot of things had transitioned to light colored backgrounds because I think when reading things on the internet, reading white text on black is a lot worse than reading black text on white.
I agree.
And so, but the interesting is that orange works against a light color as well as it works against a black color, dark color that isn't quite black. And so it's not. I mean, if you look at different disparate Beer Busters designs, sometimes it kind of feels like there's maybe not a theme that ties them together, and I've tried to keep the theme loose enough that it's open to the fact that we can have 7 different T-shirt designs so that people are more likely to buy them, and and open enough that it will translate to a lot of things. But at the end of the day, I think that beer mug is really the one thing that stands out, and everything sort of tips its hat to that in one way or another. And hashtag giving away a secret. The Beer Busters font is actually a Google font, which is an open source font, and it's Oswald Bold, if anybody's interested, all caps, Beer Busters. So if you want to mimic our logo, just use that font.
I don't think you should tell people that.
It's free. It's a free and open source font, and I think that's a cool thing about because I very much think Google Fonts is awesome, and people should use them, and I use them, to good effect, I think.
Well, please don't copy our logo.
No, don't copy our logo. It's cool. But it's funny is because I didn't make that font choice. Dan inadvertently made that font choice for me.
You're welcome.
Yes, because Dan originally set up our first website on Weebly.
Yeah.
Website and platform. Not the website actually was okay. It looked good. I mean, but I don't like Weebly.
It's a way to build a website for people like me who don't know how to build a website.
If you don't know how
Which
to build
is
a
why
website,
my website is on Weebly.
Exactly. If you don't know how to build a
Yes.
website, and if your website's not going to be super complicated, one of the things that getting away from graphic design and more into web design and stuff is that one of the things I pushed for when I came on the podcast was being more than a podcast and having a website and writing articles. And I said, at one point I was like, we're going to start treating this like an online magazine. I, in fact, deliberately told Dan and Steph we are no longer using the word blog.
Yep.
Because it's not
Blog
a blog.
is dead, I believe was the title of that
Yes.
email.
Well, I said we can still use it amongst ourselves, but nothing official is going to say blog. And so Weebly just isn't meant for that sort of complicated, interconnected, different types of articles, different series of articles. But anyway, so Dan originally set up the website on Weebly, and the theme that he chose happened to use this Oswald font in its titles. And it's funny because if I had never done the Beer Busters design and you had presented this font to me and said, I'm thinking about using this font, I'd been like, that font's stupid.
Yeah.
I would have seriously said it's like Impact. I don't know if anybody knows the Impact font that's been around since Windows in the 90s, but it's just a dumb font. It's just a bold, big, ball swinging. Look at my font. But it's funny because I used it because it was already there, and it's not a choice I would have made otherwise, but I like it. So long story short, beer.
I made pictures for beer. Each of you now has to go on the spot because I'm going to start with Dan because I think Steph is going to be the most conflicted on this.
Oh, no.
Favorite beer of all time.
Oh, God. Like ever or just that we tasted on the show?
Your favorite beer, period.
Oh, God.
I mean, it can be one you taste on the show if that's your favorite beer of all time.
Oh, come on. Miller Lite. God, I don't know. That's like asking to pick your favorite child, but you have like 1,000 children.
Put the other ones in the closet. They don't matter.
Besides, they taste better when they suffer.
Hashtag.
I'm only kidding.
All right, so there have only been a few that have made me gush. Non-stop gush.
All right.
I have to think about the beers I've gushed about. There was Southern Tier Creme Brulee. But with a full bottle, you'll feel like you have diabetes. We had the first top shelf post.
The Apple Brandy Grand
Apple
Met.
Brandy.
That was phenomenal.
Voodoo.
That was phenomenal. But I can't see myself sitting there and drinking that all the time either.
That's the thing. There's some amazing beers you've had, but to me, a favorite beer should be a beer you can go to and drink all the time.
Exactly.
I agree with that.
And that's why it's tough.
You can do it.
I believe in you.
All right,
Put your big boy pants on.
I got to now wrote down, and it's not because we've had them on the show several times, but Evil Genius.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
I know. I can have so many of their beers as much as anybody can have any beer. I think I would have to go with either Trick or Treat or Purple Monkey Dishwasher.
Purple Monkey Dishwasher.
Interesting. Okay. Awesome. I like it.
I took it off there. Never mind. Damn it! I thought it was still on.
You should have seen your face, all right?
I had the Simpsons clip.
Hashtag callback. Look at the fish on the label, Wayne. Isn't that interesting? There's no fish on the label. It's there.
Wait, segue. That's my favorite beer of all time.
That was easy.
Sculpin.
This
Habanero
tastes like a
Sculpin.
fish.
Habanero Sculpin.
Smells like fish, tastes like chicken. Hold your nose and keep on licking.
That's funny. Habanero Sculpin is my favorite beer of all time. And that's what has inspired me to brew a habanero IPA myself. I'm not trying to copy their recipe. I'm trying to
pay an homage.
Yeah, like
give credit.
give a nod to their recipe. But that's a beer that when I see a local bar has it on tap, I have my hydro flask in my hand, and I'm like, Rich, get in the car, let's go. But there's an hour and a half away just to get that growler filled, because that is a beer that I just want to drink all the time. I absolutely love it.
All right, so we have two answers.
So sorry, I skipped ahead.
No,
I think
that's
I was supposed to go
perfectly fine.
last.
It doesn't matter to the order. We're going reverse cycling here. It's on to Wayne.
I guess it's my turn. Whether it's beers or songs or movies or television shows, I don't believe in picking favorites.
But if someone put a gun to your head.
If someone put a gun to
because
your head.
there are so many things,
Right
beer
now in
or
this
otherwise, that I really love. But it just depends what I'm into at the moment or what I'm doing. I will say that one beer, and this is probably going to be a little weird because it's not like a crazy great. I mean, it's a great beer, but it's not like a weird sort of out there or like super rare. But a beer that I will always, if I'm out getting like a mixed 6-pack or picking up some beers, and I just need to fill out that last spot. Because I usually think things I haven't tried before, things I haven't had in a while, and I'm like, there's one more thing I want to get or one more bottle I want to get. I really like Victory's Red Thunder.
Ooh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That is one beer that I think I could drink anytime.
So if you're doing a make your own 6-pack, that only comes in
Only
bombers.
comes in bombers. Yes, I know. I realized that as I was saying.
I
There
love
are
your
certain
6-pack.
there are
Right.
certain bombers that you can fit into a regular 6-pack.
Yeah.
I've
That's
learned
always-
this. I've learned this from the Barley Mow because they only give you those regular 6-packs, and,
Right.
and I usually end up getting like 4
Well,
bombers.
I think, and the thing is, most of the times I've bought that beer, I've been getting a mixed 6-pack, and I thought, I'm going to grab a bomb or two, and then I was like, I can't decide on one, and I'd be like, they have Red Thunder, I'll grab that. And it's just a really good beer, but it depends. I mean, I really like crazy out there beers and like really weird stuff. Like not like weird, like there's goat brains in this beer, but stuff where like you're like, this tastes like vomit and horse blanket, and you're like, what? And you're like, no, but it's so good.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that this smells like sweaty feet, and it's awesome. I just love the idea, and you get that with food too. Speaking of vomit, is that like.
There's the hashtag right there.
Speaking of vomit.
But like something like Parmesan cheese.
Yeah.
It smells like vomit. And I think I may have said this on the show before, but it doesn't just kind of smell like vomit. It actually contains the same amino acids that make vomit smell like vomit. And yet, when it's Parmesan cheese, it's great. When it's vomit, it's repulsive. And I love the idea that flavor is so subjective in that way, and challenging what you think is good. And saying that this tastes like cow farts, and you just think, well, that's horrible. But you're like, no, but it's actually really good. And you try, that is really good. And I just love that sort of thing. But Victory Red Thunder doesn't taste like cow farts. It's still good.
John, I know you're leading this, but I kind of want to know, what's your favorite beer?
My favorite beer of all time is Anchor's Liberty Ale, and there's one reason that I won't share publicly, because it's extremely private. But there's another reason, which is that Anchor, it's kind of funny because, like I said, I got into it for the sort of the historical side of it. Like I said, when I was a junior in college, shortly after I turned 21, I was taking a class, and the entire point of the class was just to learn how to write a really freaking long paper. And you could choose pretty much whatever subject you wanted. So I decided to do a local craft brewery, which was, again, the Roanoke Rail House that I met down there, and put them in the context of the whole history of the craft brewing revolution. And while I was sort of getting into it, I still didn't really love craft beers that much. And Anchor Liberty Ale was sort of where I turned the corner, and I was like, hey, this is bitter, but I like it. And I think that's kind of cool, because that is how a lot of people, and especially a lot of the earliest people who started craft breweries, they looked at Anchor as sort of their inspiration. Just the basic steam beer is an amazing beer. Has been every time I've ever tried it. Liberty Ale was considered incredibly hoppy and bitter for its time, and now you compare that to some Sculpin or something like that, and you're like, does this even have hops in it? But yeah, that's my favorite for a number of reasons. That being one of them. So on to the last question.
There's another one.
The very last question.
Uh-oh.
Can you say, as a group this time, now you have to work together. Now you have to cooperate.
Uh-oh.
What your single favorite episode you've recorded so far has been?
I get the nouns.
There's significant looks going on.
There's different categories.
Yeah.
Like they were each special in their own way.
I will say, okay, you know what I'm going to say, and I'm going to lead the charge. And you're not going to stop me. Stop looking at me. One episode that stands out to me, I don't know if I'd call it my favorite unless you put a gun to my head.
Where are these guns, by the way?
Government took them.
Yeah. The episode that I think represented the transition from we're kind of nervous and we don't really know what we're doing to being really comfortable and having a great time was the first time we had Evil Genius on.
I agree.
That was the first episode where it felt like this is a lot of fun and we're not even trying. Not that we don't try. We don't try to make a good show.
No, we work very, very hard.
We do work very hard, but it's like we're not self-conscious. We were just chilling. We were doing it. We were confident in what we were doing. We got along with the guys really well. We still get along with the guys really well. They've been on the show several times since, and will be again. But to me, I think that episode was the turning point where it went from a bunch of nervous people behind a microphone who didn't really know what to say to being comfortable in what we do. And I think that was the episode where that happened.
I love...
Also, the phone rang in the middle of the
that was that episode. I can't believe you kept that in. I'm still kind of mad at you for that. I love that we now record on site sometimes. I love that we're not... I love being here at home. I love recording in our Beer Busters podcast basement. But I really love when brewers open up their brewery to us and we can go... And they're home.
Literally.
Some of them, yeah, absolutely. And I love being able to take this show on the road. And I just love how the show is just evolving and growing and changing. For atmosphere, I loved Shawnee Craft. That's the most beautiful place.
Yeah.
I loved
and that's where all the
there.
hashtagging began.
And I never got a steak.
Began. We'll have to go back. Naked Brewing was probably the most I ever laughed in an episode. Yeah. They were so much fun. For nostalgic reasons, I loved when we had our grandfather on I just thought that was so much
That was
fun
great.
having him have that. I mean, he's not the kind of guy that talks a lot. I mean, so to have him sit and chat there with us for that long and let us record it, that was fun. I love that Colin has been on the show multiple times. I loved traveling through his changes from brewery to brewery, from Weyerbacher to Golden Avalanche to Stouts back to Golden Avalanche. I loved promoting his beer
From
and
single to married.
no longer
Really
the
good
Bachelor and you know, having our friends on here in the industry and promoting them, and I can't pick one. It's just everyone is so special. Like Mike breaking the beer that he had brewed for his wedding, and Brian speaking Latin just randomly
was
on the
awesome.
show, and you know, and then Matt coming and talking about
Mustache
taking care of your
grooming.
mustache, and the awesome. That was probably the best photo we ever did before a show.
Yeah,
the Halloween
that was
themed
really cool.
photo. I mean, there's just so many amazing memories, and the people that we've met, and the beers that we've gotten to try. Oh my God, the beers that we've had. It's just.
But Steph, gun to your head.
As I said, I only picked one.
I can't.
She's dead.
It is tough.
There's
is
no
tough to
one
pick a
that's better than
favorite.
the other. There are awesome
Yep.
moments about every single
single one.
person that's ever been in this basement and shared, and from those that are just starting and trying to get in, from Pierce Brewing and Dabbler, and you know, the guys that are still technically home brewers, and then Greg Orth bringing like
The briefcase
the
of
briefcase
chocolate.
of chocolate and
Briefcase
like,
of chocolate.
and it's amazing. We're so fortunate to do this, and I mean, we certainly don't get paid for it, but it's a lot of fun. And how could we forget the hop farm? Holy crap!
Hop Farm was awesome.
The
That
hop-
was
I
the
visited
best
it.
location
That was
ever.
the most beautiful view we ever had. Being in that barn and looking out.
Yeah,
Oh my God.
that was
How
great.
can I even? And the dogs, their dog, and then when we had JR getting to record
With
in his
Bear.
studio with Bear, that was awesome. I'm just scrolling through the website now, just seeing all the awesome people that we got to meet, and like memories, like Chris Harvey and Ryan DeLudis and the guys from Evil Genius. I mean, these people we wouldn't have met any other way.
No.
We're still in contact with.
And everybody has been just not only were they enthusiastic about it, but very passionate about
Yeah.
it too.
And a place like Snitz Creek, where we were in the fermentation room.
Yeah, we were.
Crazy. That was probably the craziest episode.
That was the hardest to edit. That's
That-
for sure.
I can imagine.
And they had, and we ate like kings after
Oh
that.
my
that's
God,
really
the
good.
bologna burger. Oh,
And we got to go back to Armstrong.
yeah.
He was like our first actual. I mean, now he wasn't in studio, but we recorded his first interview on my iPhone.
Yeah.
And spliced it in. And then that day he came here, and then Christian Mosbach. We recorded
the two
both.
episodes in one- that was
We
so-
recorded 2 in one day, and it was
And
snowing.
snowed.
And both of them got here. They both had legitimate drives to get here, but they made it here and recorded with us and got home safely in the snow. It was.
I
Those
fell
were two
asleep on the
really good
sofa 'cause I
episodes.
drank too much.
I remember that, yeah.
I remember that.
Yeah.
Dan?
Awesome.
Oh man.
And Christian will hopefully be on the show again with
If
Wire.
Steph ever finishes
I'm
answering the
sorry.
question.
I know. And you know what?
I'm just reminiscing
I
about
know.
all the awesome people we've had on the show.
It's okay. It
It's
gives
been
me
so
time to get more
fun.
beer.
There you go. I know we were supposed to potentially pick one, and Wayne had a very good point with his, and Steph was.
I can't
very-
do it. Shoot me.
It's hard. It's really hard
Verbose
to do
is
it.
the word we use. Verbose.
There you go.
Bombastic.
You know, for
Judicious.
for the same reason I think that Wayne did, I will have to go with that episode as well. Not to discredit anybody else from anybody.
And I
we
don't
had
think
on the
that was
show.
our best or my favorite. I think that was probably pound for pound as far as what we do, the most important moment.
Yeah,
It was a turning
It
point.
was the first time that I had an interview that I was proud of, and I've through working at various radio stations before, I've interviewed celebrities.
Did you interview Macho Man or something?
No, Nature Boy,
No.
Ric Flair. He was the first interview that I did, and it was interesting. I interviewed Paul Bettany, Jason Biggs. I interviewed.
Yeah,
the
you got your
cast-
picture taken with Chris Hardwick. So
I know, and I interviewed the cast of Captain America, and it was all awesome. But you could tell I was nervous every single time. That was the first time that I had an interview where I didn't sound nervous. It was the most conversational thing I had done to that point, and it was a turning point for us as a podcast because, like Wayne said, it was the first time that we weren't 3 nervous people behind a microphone. But not only that, it was the turning point for me because that's when I put faith back in my radio career. I knew I wanted to do it, but at that point, I knew I can interview somebody, and I can have it sound like it's just conversation.
Yeah.
That's what did it for me. And it's cool that those guys are, we're still in touch with them. They still want to come back on the show. We're still able to go out and support them. And we support everybody that's been on the show. But that's the one that did it for me, where it became potentially more than a hobby for this podcast.
Yeah. And I'll never forget the night we met Trevor. You
and
I,
yeah,
we were at
in Philly.
Fergie's Pub
Yeah.
before Philly Beer Geek. We were going there to support Colin. And we met Trevor that night.
Yeah.
And we met Lou Bryson that night. We met Sam Cook that night. We met...
Yeah.
That was just an awesome night.
And going to Fergie's was just kind of a last minute decision. Mm-hmm. And look what happened because of that. That's awesome. That's so cool.
Amazing.
And the burger I had there was really good.
Okay, then.
Yeah. So if you can't tell, we're pretty long-winded when we can be.
We are not used to getting to
I know.
just talk.
It's different, but it's so cool.
But it's always better to have more information or too much information than not enough. And I don't think
so we don't get 10 pages in the book.
I don't think you've given too much information. And no, everybody gets only 2 pages in the book, although to your guys' advantage, because you don't have any beers to make or any hops that you grow, you actually get 2.
I do grow hops, actually.
Well,
but I don't sell them.
Because the Beer Busters don't officially endorse any hops that you grow. You get 2 full pages devoted simply to your story. So there it goes. And speaking of the book, I'm going to take this brief moment before I think maybe we have yet another what are those things called?
Mad-lib?
Mad-lib. Yes, possibly we have another one of those, and we are currently drinking yet another beer, so we'll talk about that. But before we do, I'm going to take my little moment to selflessly plug myself at my project. So I've told you about the book, and the Beer Busters here have asked me about it, and you've heard a few things about it. So I'm not going to take any more time to explain it, but if anyone out there in the podcast universe is interested in following it and looking into it, the best way to do it is to go to www.beercountrybook.com. That is the website. From there, you can link to all the social medias and whatnot. I routinely post new blogs on there. There is a blog which I talk about every single new brewery that I'm visiting. You can go back and read about all of the breweries that I've visited, as well as a bunch of shameless plugs about the Beer Busters, because these guys are awesome.
Are you going to blog about being here tonight?
Absolutely, I am.
Yay!
Well, it's going to be kind of a double blog, double feature, because I'm going to write one about pouring for the guys at Dabbler last weekend, as well as being here tonight. Maybe that'll be 2. Who knows? We'll see what happens.
For a second there, I really thought you were going to say porn.
At what point? At what point? At what point did you think I was going to say porn?
You were going to say pouring. You were like, what? Oh, pouring.
Yeah. When I was doing porn last weekend with the guys from
Better
Dabbler.
fire up an incognito window.
Here we go.
But yeah, that's the infos. And if you want to do the social media separately, it is www.beercountrybook.com. Oh shoot, it's Facebook. Facebook.com/beercountrybook. Which Wayne is, confirming.
Twitter is at Beer Country John.
Yes, and Twitter is at Beer Country John. And those are the only 3 that you really need to know. And that's the end of my shameless self-plugging.
Plug away.
And, all the, I will mention again, all of the graphic art on all of those areas is 100% the work of Mr. Wayne Baker. Yay. And a million thanks to him.
Yeah,
a billion thanks to all the Beer Busters and Steph for helping me set up the list of people who I was going to talk to, which I would never. Literally, I do really quick. I want to say, I don't know if I've said this directly to any of you guys yet, but I do want to say, literally, this project would not have started at all if it wasn't for you guys. So I want to pass on my thanks there. And if it wasn't for Wayne following up on an email that disappeared in the into the void.
I was like, wait, did anybody ever respond to this guy?
Yeah, it still wouldn't have gone anywhere, but thankfully he did, and it got rolling. So
awesome.
Cheers.
Now we are drinking another beer, and
yes.
You know what? I've been describing beers all night, Steph. Do you want to take this
Actually, I'm going to let Dan take this one because
Dan, do you want to take
this
this
one that
Sure,
he
yeah,
is
why not?
contributing.
Yeah, this is another one I brought back from my trip to Los Angeles/Orange County. I went to the Bevmo where I got the Wootstow 2.0. We tried a few episodes ago.
Yum.
The guy at Bevmo, who I believe his name was Tim, he made sure, because once he knew that I was kind of serious about beer and I mentioned the podcast and everything, he made sure, excuse me, to go into the back stock room to get me some of the serious stock of beer. And what he brought out, there were 2 bottles that he had. I forget what the other one was, but I decided to go with the Firestone Walker 2014 Vintage Double DBA, which is an Imperial Special Bitter that rocks an ABV of 12%.
And it tastes like it.
It does taste like 12%.
In a good way.
I got, much like Woot Stout 2.0, I got 2 bottles of this, one for us to try here, the other still sitting in my refrigerator at home because I wanted to save my very first virgin tasting of it for the show.
Cheers.
Very nice.
Cheers indeed.
Holy crap, I can't drink a lot of this. This is a true sipping beer.
It really is.
Okay.
Sessionable.
This is true. So I'm glad I saved my first taste of this beer for the podcast because it's definitely worth talking about.
It's great.
To say the least. It's very flavorful, but very powerful at the same time.
It's boozy.
Yeah.
I mean, it tastes like booze.
You got to sip this one.
Mm-hmm.
But it is very good, and it has a nice malty sweetness behind it.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it's aged 12 months. I can't read the yeast because the label got wet. But 12% alcohol by volume. There's no label on the back of the bottle. It is a wax top. As if that matters.
It is cylindrical, dark brown in color.
Firestone is spelled F-I-R.
And an arch on the label.
But it's
It's
good.
Yeah, it's definitely. I mean, yeah, you can definitely pull the boozy out of it and everything, but also, it's it's really not that thick on the palate.
It's not,
which you get a lot with, these really deep bourbon barrel aged beers. A lot of times you drink it and you're kind of like, that sort of tastes like drinking bourbon almost as much as it tastes like drinking beer.
I get a lot of vanilla and almost a little coconut in the flavor.
Maybe a hint, yeah.
I haven't gotten that yet.
Hint of lime.
This is
Hint of lime.
actually
Subtle
their
hint of lemon.
a subtle hint of lemon. This is actually their flagship beer, brewed to double strength.
So is this barrel aged or?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, I
Yeah,
thought
this
so.
one
I was
is
going to say it
bad.
has
Okay,
to be.
so what's the original beer called?
The DBA.
DBA,
just
and this is
DBA.
the double DBA. That's right. Because when we had it in Philly,
We
they
had
had
the DBA and
they
then we
had
had the
both. Yeah. And I remember one was like, "Oh, that's good," and the second one was like, "Whoa, that's strong." And this
I
would be
think
the
we
second.
actually shared a glass of it. If
The
I
second
remember,
one,
because we
yeah.
had been drinking all day.
Yeah, it was Philly Beer Week.
Yeah,
and
because
all
we
over the
were
place.
at Local 44 for the Russian River thing, and then we were at Dock Street, and then we were there, and we're like, yeah, we need to share this.
But yeah, for me, like beers like this that are barrel aged and that are young barrel aged. I mean, I imagine this wasn't bottled all that long ago.
It should be on the bottle.
It's it can go either way. Like sometimes it's too much of the alcohol taste, it's too much of the bourbon. Like young barrel aged that recently bottled. I really like when barrel aged beers are given time to age in the bottle and they mellow out. But this is one that, even given the strong alcohol taste now, I'm really enjoying, which is unusual for me.
Yeah. I know you normally don't like beers like that.
Yeah, the heat didn't overpower me. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have one more beer,
Yes.
which is the one we've been waiting for.
Yes.
Well, we've had some awesome beers, but it's the one we've been building up to like all night. So we should describe that.
So this is the brewery's Smokey and the Boys. This beer was brewed to celebrate monthlyclubs.com's 20th anniversary. It was exclusively brewed for the members of the club members of monthlyclubs.com, the Rare Beer of the Month Club and the Micro Beer of the Month Club, and for the brewery's Reserve and Hoarders Societies. This beer is a blend of Black Tuesday, which is their much coveted bourbon barreled stout that I'm sure most of our listeners have heard from, Smoking Wood, which is an imperial rye porter offering malts smoked with beech and cherry wood, and Boys, their exceptional bourbon barrel aged old ale. So this very, very limited release was recently mailed out. I just received it in the mail last month, and I've been saving one bottle for a special episode.
I think this counts.
So to answer your question, Wayne, is 16.2%.
Thank you.
The question you never have to ask.
Thank you very
It
much.
is categorized as a bourbon barrel aged, blended with vanilla beans and Mindo chocolate makers cacao nibs.
It also tastes like booze.
Well,
16.2%.
it's young.
If the last one tasted like booze and it was 12%.
I poured Dan a lot.
Yeah, you did.
By the way,
You really? Wow.
Whoa, that smell.
Yeah.
This is right up my alley as by far
Wow.
my favorite single style of beer.
wow.
And the
Wow.
Firestone really did it for me too, but this one is even, I think I'm going to call this one better.
Wow. That is complex.
It's good. It's really good.
I love the smoke.
Yeah, it has a nice smokiness. It has that the dark chocolate, the bitterness. The alcohol is very much there.
Yeah, especially in the aroma.
Yeah.
You smell
Yes.
this. You smell booze.
It is there.
Oh, it's like a s'more.
It
You
is
get
a bit.
the smoke. You get a
S'more
little
what?
sweetness, sort of
S'more
like the
bourbon.
marshmallow, and you
S'more
get a
bourbon.
bit of the bitter chocolate.
It is sort of like a bourbon s'more.
It's like an
Yeah.
adult s'more. Yeah,
Yeah.
delicious. I'll definitely have to sit on the other bottle for a while.
Yeah.
Let it mellow out, but it's so good. Dan, you're like speechless.
It's boozy. It's different. It's difficult. But at the same time easy.
It's definitely a sipper.
Yeah.
What if it not like this, but not this? Like, what if it was a shark?
Are we at that point?
Then I wouldn't be drinking it. I'd be running from it.
You can't run from a shark. You're in the
Fair
water.
enough. Yeah, you could swim.
I can run on water.
Run, swim.
Not really.
So I'm thinking that probably brings us.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, that actually brings us to the end of the first and only episode of
Of which one is it?
outro.
Unfortunately, my friends.
So unfortunately, my friends, that brings us to the end of the first and only episode of Beer Country Podcast Radio. And I want to thank you all for joining me, as well as the Beer Busters once again. As that sound gets turned down because it was probably blasting your speakers out.
Fix it in post.
And it was the great me who said, please, buy my book.
I knew it.
But seriously, I love what I'm doing, and check it out. I think that's it.
Sounds good.
Peace out.
Later, y'alls.
Deuces.